Hello, everybody. My name is Dustin Siggins, and today I'm talking with Leah, Mollie, and Anjeanette about how even if the algorithm hates you, you can still win on LinkedIn. And the way we're going to talk about it today is how the algorithm, for a lot of people, it just isn't that friendly. And how a lot of people are seeing content they don't like. But there's a few key steps you can take from your pre-posting strategy to the content you put out there to everything else you do surrounding the content that you post that can allow you to achieve the goals that you want to. Mollie, Leah, and Jeanette, if you'll just introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Mollie Johnson, and I'm founder of Three Brooks Marketing. And I work with nonprofit leaders and policy experts, authors, and other industry experts that want to build a personal brand in order to drive results like sales, um, building policy impact, and creating communities around their ideas.
Hi, I'm Leah Dergachev. I'm the founder of Austley. We are a communications first marketing consultancy, and we help work with brands and teams who want to stand out, who want to work smarter, and we help them learn how to scale using AI.
I love it. Hi, I'm Anjeanette, and I am the founder of Stratus Media. I help founders and CEOs grow their personal brands on LinkedIn. And additionally, I also coach freelancers and solopreneurs who want to build strategic personal brands to grow their businesses.
And folks, as we go through this, make sure to ask plenty of questions. You'll see me looking down a lot. It's not because I'm falling asleep. It's because I'm looking at the comments, like Hasbul's comment here. He's been waiting for this event for a long time. So make sure you throw your comments. We'll try to address them as we go. So I'm actually the least LinkedIn expert here on the call. And the reason I know anything about this is thanks to Mollie. She and I met through LinkedIn about a year ago. We did a co-authored op-ed, and I realized that she probably could teach me a few things. And over the course of the next, 4 months, Mollie,
Yep.
we developed a system that was very systematic, and it's also generated a 7x ROI on our investment into LinkedIn. We're well into the six figures on revenue generated from LinkedIn since December of 2024. And it took some time to get there. And in fact, in December, I was panicking because nobody in my target audience, the PR firm owners, in-house leaders, marketing agencies, and public affairs people, no one was on LinkedIn. And I was desperate to engage and felt like my impressions were down or my engagement was down. And that actually hurt me in January because I was engaging with people who weren't in my target audience. Because the only people who were very present every day were the influencers, and they don't care about me, and I really don't care about them except as human beings. And so what that meant was the algorithm responded to my behavior. And so it took 2 weeks in January with Mollie's advice to get back on track. And that's because I was too focused on my post and the reaction to my post and comparing myself to the only people who are really engaging every day on LinkedIn, which are the influencers who have hundreds or thousands of engagements per post. And so what that taught me was to really focus on what I could control, but also that the post itself is only 20%, just like lifting weights. When you're younger, you think lifting weights is everything, but really you have to lift weights, but you also need to eat, drink water, rest, sleep. That's 80% of success in building muscle. And the same thing is true on LinkedIn. And so thankfully, thanks to Mollie, I was able to fix this. And part of the reason we're having this conversation today is a lot of people are complaining. They're seeing garbage posts. They're seeing more M-dash conversations in the communication space. They're seeing people complaining and they're getting frustrated. So one of the things I think we want to talk about today is you're in control of your own future here on LinkedIn because of the things that we're going to talk about. So Leah, I'd like to throw it to you because you're the one who talked about how the LinkedIn algorithm was changing, and I think you said even 7 minutes ago you got another like on a post that has
I did.
5,000
Yeah.
engagements.
Yeah. I'm sure many of you have or might continue to see or will see in a few weeks from now the post I made, which was literally just about, it was a Business Insider article just about how the LinkedIn algorithm has changed. And I know my audience for work is marketing and communications folks as well as CEOs and leaders. So I made that post though a little bit more general just because it was a problem that we all had or were seeing. And I had to write this down because I had to keep forgetting. So it's like 4,800 reactions. 1,100 comments and almost 400 people reposted it. And so I've seen a lot of things go viral from other people, but one of the things that really surprised me that I actually just counted like last week was that I had nearly 100 DMs specifically about that post. I knew I had a lot. I spent like the weekend afterwards literally responding to every single comment and every single DM, mostly because people were literally just thanking me for finding that. And I was not the one who interviewed, LinkedIn. So I'm like, I don't want to get that credit. I just happened to find the article and share it. And so you're welcome. But one of the things that was really crazy to me is it wasn't just the fact that I posted this, this post that so many people picked up. It's what led to afterwards was all the DMs about it, just even saying, hey, thanks, or hey, thanks. Then I took a look at what you do, or hey, I see we're both in communications and marketing. And because of that, and because of my continued engagement with these folks, like I've met people in Barcelona, in Australia, Singapore, Paris. Like I've literally had conversations. I'm so thankful they also speak English because I can't speak that many languages, but I'm so thankful that I've been able to meet people all around the world and kind of just share. People want to know about my career path, what my offerings are. And so my biggest takeaway here is just because I posted something that people found to be interesting and valuable, I think a lot of the success for me came because I continued to engage in the conversations that happened after the post. I mean, again, like right now, someone literally just posted on that, and I did, right before our call, I did message them or I did respond to them. But it's just that the continued engagement that's been such a big takeaway, and that's honestly been very valuable for me. If I would have just said, oh, hey, you're welcome, that wouldn't really go anywhere. But we continue to say, oh, and this is what I'm seeing. And I've been able to share what people have been sharing to me about what that post meant for them and what they're seeing too. And I think that's kind of what we're going to be talking about here. But it's just been amazing having conversations and connecting with folks who I would never have spoken to, I think, if I had not posted that.
Well, and to double down on that, you and I connected in February and had a quick DM. When I saw
Yeah.
this post, we connected again and we did a proposal call because we got to know what you do and how you do it. And
Yeah.
now you're on the show. So to your point, like there was two distinct values that were driven from you responding to my DM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm like booked out for speaking now.
Um,
Now, Mollie, you've talked about the counterculturally, if you will, that the algorithm, that LinkedIn itself is working largely the way it should, better than a lot of people think. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yes. So I think what drives a lot of the personal branding conversations online, and especially this is true on LinkedIn, is it's driven by big influencers who are growing that huge audience, who are gathering tons of engagements, and their metrics are really great. And that's what a lot of people, when they think about building their personal brand, they think about that's what they need to do. And I work with folks who can drive results, but not have to have a huge audience. They don't have to hit that influencer status, but they can still drive those results. And a lot of the folks I think who are hit the hardest on LinkedIn aren't necessarily even those mega influencers. If you think about it, LinkedIn only has 500 top voices out of over 1 billion users. So even that hitting that huge influencer status is lower on LinkedIn, the possibility of you hitting that. And so there's a lot of micro influencers, and those are the folks that are going to be hit the hardest by some of these algorithm changes. However, I don't think that just because their engagement is down doesn't mean that they can't still drive results, even if that's true that they are seeing this engagement down. And you can still drive sales, you can still gather opportunities. I mean, even Leah's story is a testament to driving opportunities through a post without having to hit that, huge influencer status in order to gather those results. So that's my take on it, is that there's still lots of success to be had on LinkedIn, and it doesn't necessarily get hurt by these little algorithm shifts that really change up what content you're seeing. Because, to get really specific, it's gone from recency, what's the most recent post, to relevance. And that's really the algorithm shift that everyone's complaining right now, is that LinkedIn's trying to show you what's most relevant to you. And that actually could help you in the long run too, is your posts can get that longer, I would say, like longer runtime shelf life.
Mhm. And then over to Anjeanette, and Mollie tagged me in one of your posts the other day, and I think your message was a longer version of fluffy posts drive engagement, but they don't drive sales.
Correct. I mean, look, we're all on LinkedIn for one reason, and that's to make money. And if you're on LinkedIn and you're not making money, you're doing it wrong. Okay? So that's number one. Now,
Mhm.
you can have different monetary goals. Some people want to be on LinkedIn and be an influencer. That's one goal. If you want to be like the famous route, go that route. Go after brand deals, go do that. Great. That's
Mhm.
then post all the fluffy stuff you want and get those vanity metrics up because that work, but that is a way, that is a road to monetization, and it's not a bad one. But then if you're like, most of my clients and the people I work with, they specifically say to me, Anjeanette, I don't want to be famous. I'm not on here, I'm not looking for
Right.
all eyeballs on me. They're like, I just want to drive more business. I want more leads. And that is where your content becomes king. It doesn't matter if it's recent, relevant, whatever, the algorithm is always going to change.
Right.
What we're talking about today is probably going to be irrelevant, in a year from now. So it's always going to change. But what doesn't change or should not change is your message and your content. You're going to go up, you're going to go down. I'm sure all of us here in this room have
Hmm.
weeks where we're just like killing it on content. You're like, I'm
Hmm.
amazing. And then the next week
Yep.
it'll be like down. It's like, oh, wait, what's wrong? Does anybody like me? But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're going like this, as long as you're going like this, is eventually you're still going up,
Right.
and you can still go viral if that's your goal in this new algo change environment. I have, my clients have, but also again, don't chase those vanity metrics. As long as you are connecting with your relevant audience, I think that is most important. And I think this algorithm change is a positive one because it's only going to help you get in a silo that where you can make more money.
And so let's talk now. So we've kind of set the stage here that it's not about the metrics that a lot of people are talking about, right? It's the metrics that really matter. And so, Anjeanette, what are the metrics that you advise your clients to look at? Because the hardest part is getting started and then
Mhm.
staying going, say, for that first month or two. What are the metrics early on that you encourage people to look at? Or is there a step we're actually missing by talking about metrics at this point
Well,
in the
I think so.
conversation?
It honestly depends. For example, I have one client where I always say, okay, well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? And he's like, followers. I just want followers. I got to respect that. So for him, I literally post whatever I think is just going to go viral. And I don't care if it's his niche, I don't care if it's his industry, I don't care what it is. He wants those, he is paying me because he wants those vanity metrics. And that's fine. That's his goal. Great. But then if your
Mhm.
goal, I have others. So for him, I say the KPIs you need to be looking for are follower count, impressions, etc. I mean, that those are really the metrics to look at across the board. But the hardest part, I think, about Mollie probably can agree, the hardest part about building personal brands, especially in a space like LinkedIn, is there are so many things that are not like quantifiable. Like I have a current client who is being hit by this algo thing, this algo change. He was going viral all the time. Like he was like my golden boy. Like always, I'd be like, it doesn't matter what I post, it just does well.
Mhm.
To like crash and burn crickets, where I'm like, oh God, is
Mhm.
he even gonna stay? It's not my fault. I'm doing my best, but even though the actual performance of his content has been on a bit of a downward turn, he recently just got a message from someone saying, hey, would you like to be, on our board of advisors for basically something that is 100% in his niche, exactly what he's looking to do, like his accomplishing his LinkedIn goals. And that's a goal he could never even have articulated to me because it was a goal he didn't even know he had. But those opportunities are hard to measure in KPIs. It's like we're not running paid ads
Mhm.
where you can see them. So it's a trickier thing.
Right.
I mean, I like to tell my clients, look at the impressions, look at follower count, but when you're building your personal brand, it really goes beyond metrics.
And that was my experience as well, is the algorithm, changed in June and December of last year, and I just started investing in LinkedIn in May of last year. So it went great for like 5 weeks or 6 weeks, and then tanked. And that's when we brought Molly in. And at that point, I realized that so much of my attention was on the post and the quality of the post. And Molly, how many dozens or hundreds of hours did I spend writing content to schedule it? Forgetting that you spend 30 minutes a day, and maybe an hour if your post goes viral like Leah's did, an hour a day on LinkedIn doing everything else. That is what's going to make a big difference. I mean, there were so many people in the spring. I had to take a little bit of a break from direct LinkedIn engagement in the last 8 weeks. We've just been very busy thanks to all the work we've gotten from LinkedIn. But I've had a lot of people I connected with. I was like, oh, my numbers are kind of small. And I probably had 6 people in a month say, I'm so glad we connected and you requested a Zoom call. I've been seeing your content for a long time. And that, is one of those soft metrics that you're talking about, Anjeanette. And it doesn't happen with the post. It happens I engage on probably 15 or 20 posts every morning on
Right. It's
other
the whole
people's
package.
content. It's the whole package, including, and I want to talk about this, Leah, with your unique voice here, is everyone's going to have a way to stand out. I look at LinkedIn as sort of this virtual coffee house where over here you have the AI nerds, and over here you have the, PR is dying people, and then there's the PR isn't dying people in my industry, our focus here. And over here you have the go for the WSJ, and over here you have the go for the Substack, all these different sort of niche groups in this virtual coffee house. And when you connect with them in the right way, then you can answer that call quickly. You can make sure that, and again, in my case, I interview them for the show, I interview them for my op-eds. It builds that initial relationship because I think I stand out by creating the opportunity for these conversations, both in the written form and the op-ed and on the show. So, Leah, how, you had this post go viral, but you've obviously been on LinkedIn a lot longer and you help clients with LinkedIn strategy. How do you help them think through standing out in a platform with 1 billion users?
Yeah, and I definitely, the folks I work with, I'm pretty industry agnostic at this point, but I do have a number of folks who are in the health tech space, a lot of startups, and there are a ton of startup health tech companies out there. So what they're doing themselves isn't necessarily alone the most unique or innovative thing, and everyone throws innovation around. But one of my biggest things when it comes to strategy is what are your business goals? And then how are we using social media, and in this case specifically LinkedIn, to get you there? And thought leadership is a huge platform for a lot of my clients where they want their brand, so their company pages also to be able to share valuable posts, but they also want their leadership to be able to show up too. And so we have some clients where their leaders are great, are constantly posting, but then you have the company page that's not necessarily doing anything but saying, hey, this is our new product. And so that's when I really work with them on, okay, let's look at what your strategy is and how can we actually talk about what you all are doing in a value and storytelling method. So let's not just say, hey, this is my product. Let's say this is the problem that I'm helping you or people like you solve. And coming from a more storytelling narrative is a great way to do so, while also at the same time leveraging those thought leaders, your spokespeople, your leadership team to be able to either share that too or provide their perspective, because people buy from other people, right? They're not just going to buy because a company said their stuff is so cool. So it's like, how can we get people to understand, hey, I'm just like you, or I created this because I was struggling too. Those are the things that people are going to gravitate towards. And so the strategy really becomes around what is that story. My company focuses 100% on creating that strong narrative, that message first. Then we look at how can you use AI, how can you use LinkedIn, how can you use some of these channels to get it out there, but it has to be driven by your story, because those are the things that really connect people. And so when it even comes to LinkedIn and company pages, yes, company pages I do think are still very important, but being able to have actual humans behind them and telling that story too is a really strong connector, especially on LinkedIn, because there are tons of people out there, but you just need to be able to talk about why your business or what it does for other people. And that's even where you can pull in other customers and leverage them for storytelling too. And that's the things where we see more engagement there versus just, hey, this is what our company's doing. It's so cool. I promise you should buy it.
Well, and Molly, you have a very niche audience that you're targeting, and they often have a very small niche. But you've talked about the importance of building a community for your clients. How in addition to just talking about Leah's talking about finding the pain points and talking to those as a human, how do you build a community that can allow you to draw people towards you so you're not always having to go out and push out and knock on their virtual door?
Sure. So it's very similar to something that Leah has said, but you have to build a strategy. We talked really briefly in our prep call for this about your value proposition, and it's who you are, what you do, and or what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it better than anybody else. And those are the elements of your value proposition. And I think connecting to that really strongly in your own story, in the content you create, and things like that, just come out of your brand. I think that that's really vital because that helps connect people to what you're doing. And then also the storytelling element. So I work with people in the more idea space. I work with folks who are trying to be thought leaders, who are trying to impact public policy, or trying to raise awareness for their nonprofit and the great work that their organization does. And so we're in the market space of ideas. While I do work with clients like Dustin, who was generating sales, it's kind of a mix. And so when you don't have necessarily those profit incentives, like a company does, you have to get really creative about how you're presenting your ideas and fostering those communities in order to get influence. It is a similar mechanism. If you're trying to impact public policy, you need to generate meetings. Just like if you're trying to drive sales, you need to generate meetings. And so they're very similar, but when you have people who are invested and engaged around your ideas, those communities can impact your growth and your results a lot better.
Anjeanette, I saw your hand fly up, so jump
Oh,
in.
no. I was just, twitching. I mean, I always have
I
something
thought
to
you were
say, but I
twitching. I'm
didn't have
like,
anything
I gotta
specific
jump
to
in.
say.
Well, I remember on our last call, you were about as quiet as me, so I want to make sure I give you the space.
Oh, no, I mean, I think, no matter what you're doing, content is king. It's so funny because that you guys are saying this because I literally, the post that I am going to be posting in a couple days, is just doing my own personal content, okay, I have a sneak peek, everyone. I have it right here. I wrote, my best clients never came from referrals, they came from content. Create content that makes people refer themselves. It's like every day your content
Yeah.
is your business card. So whether the algorithm loves you one day, hates you the next, it doesn't matter. When people, I always say lurkers are buyers, and I'm sure you guys have found the same. You get hit up, you get DMs, you get people that you didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know were looking at you, that
Yep.
suddenly are like big fans of your work. And you're like, who are you?
Yes.
I didn't even, people really are
Right.
reading what I put out there. It's not just these magical numbers on my analytics board. So I think no matter what, it's like it's one of those things you can't ever really let your foot off the gas. It's if you're committed to building a personal brand on LinkedIn, you do it until you don't need any more money, which is usually never.
So a lot of people, I've seen a couple of people post in the last month and a half. Well, you can't just post. You have to have a strategy behind
Sure.
it.
100%.
And I totally agree with that. But back to my workout analogy, sometimes you just need to go for a walk every day for a month. There was a study that just came out last week about how it was targeted to low income and Black participants, I think 80,000 people over the course of a couple of decades. And of course, the CDC and everyone else recommends 30 minutes a day of exercise and this type of exercise. But just 15 minutes of really intense walking had marked benefits. And they hadn't really studied those two communities, low income and Black, specifically next to each other without the rest of society tied into it. Just getting out and walking every day was a marked improvement on their health. How, to me at least, and Mollie, I'd like you to respond to this first, is just getting out there, just getting the practice of posting, because you may have no idea, but until you start writing it down, you're not going to have any idea anyway. At least that's what was in my approach. I mean, am I skipping a few steps there?
No, I think that's the thing that a lot of people get burnt out too fast, but repetition is key. So sort of what you said with the walking. And I think the same thing goes for not just the content you post or posting consistently, but it also goes for the engagement side. It goes for the getting on and commenting on people's posts regularly. If you're not also doing the engagement work, you're going to not see those results. You can't just like post and then leave, log off for the day, you're done on LinkedIn. It's those engagements, it's those DMs, it's the constant building that relationship with the people. I like to describe LinkedIn as a 24/7 conference. So you're constantly networking, you're constantly meeting people. And
Yeah.
I think something we haven't pointed out that I would like to point out is what happens when you go viral and leveraging that well. And I think Leah's story is just the excellent idea or the excellent example of what you do when you leverage that virality well. And she used that as a way to build relationships instead of just being like, "Oh, look how exciting it is. I just went viral," and move on with her life. She engaged. And I've seen people do both. I've seen people engage well after that and build those relationships and have those deeper conversations. And I've seen people log off and be like, "Wasn't that exciting? I went viral. This is great. Let's go get drinks, celebrate, call it a day." But you didn't leverage that to help you and your brand and to drive those results. And so it's kind of a mixed, it's the repetition, just like the walking. And then, maybe you feel energetic enough to go for a sprint. And what do you do after that? Like you have to keep going.
That's an excellent point. If everyone's talks about wanting to go viral or building their personal brand, and then they're not
Right.
ready for the viral moment when it actually happens. Like Leah
Mhm.
demonstrated that perfectly. She was ready. She got in her DMs. She turned those conversations into, I'm sure, more money and more connect and good, good relationships built.
Mhm.
That's how you do it. Personally, I always say, like, you have to be set up for the viral moment, blah, 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 blah. And I want to say,
Mhm.
like, 8 months ago, it happened to me where I had a really big viral moment and I was not set up for it. Not because I
Oh
didn't know
no.
not because I didn't know to be set up for it. I knew it.
Right.
But it was for
Yep.
me, one of my big things is building my email list. And just at that moment, I just didn't have a great lead magnet. I didn't have, like, I was kind of in
Mhm.
betweeny. Like,
Oh.
and it was just, I couldn't capitalize on it the way
Mhm.
I should have. And I even wrote a post about that, like I was kicking myself because I said, I had this great moment. Great. I got a lot of new followers on LinkedIn. That's great. But I didn't capitalize on it the way that I really could have and should have. But that's what life is, right? It's like sometimes you gotta, in business, you just gotta build the plane while you're flying it. You're gonna make mistakes, but you keep going and you do better next time. So the next time that happened, I was ready. So
Mhm.
and I got bigger, a lot more engagement on my I got a lot more like email subscribers, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be set up for the moment as well.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah.
that when I first had a couple hundred people like something I posted about PR, I probably didn't create as many quality comments back to people at that time, where
Mhm.
this go round I did, where people would be like, "Oh, well, I hate the algorithm," or, "Oh, no, no, this new algo is so great for me." And I could be like, "Yeah, me too," or, "Yeah, that's what I'm hearing." But like I try to purposefully say, "Oh, and
Mhm.
a lot of people actually aren't liking it and they're finding this," or, "Go ahead and switch your settings if that's something you want to do." So kind of still providing value in my
Value.
comments.
That's great.
I will say the funny thing is and I don't normally do this, I posted that from bed. I was like laying in bed still slow morning, reading the news. I was like, I don't want to get up. It was like dark here, still was like rainy, I think. And I was like, oh my God, I wasn't even what I was planning to post that day. I just happened to read this Business
Mhm.
Insider because I'm pretty sure my phone is listening to me as it is all of us, and kept hearing everyone complain about it. And I was like, oh shoot, I haven't seen anyone post this. I'm gonna just post it. And then I like post it,
Yeah.
shower stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, so many people are liking this. I get my kids up, oh my God. I'm
Yep.
like, okay, hold on, you guys. Like, eat your breakfast. I need to respond to some people. Like, but I did not. I luckily had a flexible day, but I was like, that influx was like getting to me where I had to like block out some times later. But I spent more time after the post and engaging
Sure.
valuably and actually thinking about my posts than I actually did creating that one post, which is kind of funny just to think about that. But to your point, Anjeanette, too, just like being prepared, even because you never really know when it's going to hit.
Right.
Like Hannah got it, did not think that that was going to be a post that was going to blow up that much, because I was like, there's no way I'm like one of the first people to say this. Laura, who even
You were.
actually did, yeah, she actually posted it the day prior, and I didn't see that because we were not connected or anything. And I'm like,
Right.
oh And so I'm like, my tagger and all this stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy how you do have to continue and spend some time. And that kind of brings us back to having quality content, not just in
Sure.
the post, but in the comments. Like that is also, a space for you to still provide value to your audience.
Well, and in other people's comments too. I'm going to
Yes.
share my screen here because the I remember when we were working with Mollie last year. I said, "Hey Mollie, can you be me?" And that lasted what, about 3 days? And because and that's not a hit on Mollie. It's just I thought that I can just offload all of this because I'm trying to run a company and outsourcing or whatever you want to call it, delegation is key. And I didn't realize that I was doing too much of it. Only I can speak as me. And Mollie said she was spending probably an hour a day trying to be me. And I can do that same level of engagement in about 12 minutes because my brain moves faster. I mean, my mouth moves faster than my brain. And so, but it means that there's a lot of that engagement even beyond my own post. And I'm going to share an example on that here, or actually two people pushed back on the comment I made. So this Noreen posted about make the call, right? Making a phone call, customer experience, consistency. And all right, I'll throw my own little narrative in there. I use the phone to call media. Well, Joshua Brett, put a comment. I don't know Joshua. I also don't know Joanna, other than being connected here on LinkedIn. They're pushing back on me. The reporters don't want to have that. And I said, I'm Barry, because I was about to start hosting this show. And I said, hey, my mistake. I appreciate you pushing back. And Joanna liked it. I've never had to work with Joanna to pitch on a story, but I would bet that this type of engagement where we push back respectfully on each other, there was an actual dialogue, you know, may create that little bit of a memory the next time if I ever have to reach out to her to pitch client, pitch an op-ed, etc.
But also, Dustin, that's what I've told you. I think we've talked about this before, is where you can also find some of your best content ideas is through what people
Yes,
back and
Yes,
forth
great
on in the
point.
that's a
comments.
great
Yes,
point.
Because
yes.
now you actually hear what your audience is talking about, looking for, wanting to know. It's like free audience research. It's the best.
Such a great point.
That's true. I forgot about that. I mean, I haven't had a chance to do it in a little while, but that's actually part of my process. Is if a post gets more than two or three likes, I look at that comment and say, all right, what resonated? Is this something I can repurpose as a post later in the week? Because again, I schedule out my posts, but we always leave 1 or 2 days open a week so we can have something related to the news cycle or related to a hot topic that's trending. Now, Leah, let's talk about the content creation itself of logistics standpoint. You use AI. I do it with my fingers. And Jeanette, I'm sure there's some combination of the two for you. Um, I mean, I'd never heard of Fathom until we got on our prep call for the last show we did together a few months ago, and I mean that thing was amazing. I
The best.
I
I use it on
I
every call. Yes.
I, I think it's super smart, but how do you balance out the use of technology like AI while also making sure there's a human involved in it? Because sometimes it's easier to build a house than it is to renovate.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good question. That's for me?
Yeah, either one of you, but yeah, Leah, you
Oh,
said anything.
go. Anjeanette, you go first.
Oh, let's see. Oh my gosh. So if the question is, how do you leverage technology? Are you saying, is the question, can you be too reliant on the technology? Is that the question?
Well, let's look at efficiency time,
Mhm.
right? Because all of us say, what did
Mhm.
you say at the beginning of this call, Anjeanette? Your clients say, well, I don't have time to do that, right? The
Mhm.
kind of, etc. So for us, we're starting to use AI for writing client content. We have not
Mhm.
yet begun to use it for my LinkedIn content.
Oh, you
So I'm
should
always
be.
writing by hand, but I'm a fairly fast writer. When I'm on, I can write a whole post in 5 minutes, and a
Mhm.
lot of my content is scheduled out. But when you're working with clients, especially at the front end, when you're still in the idea generation phase and they say, we don't have time, technology can save time.
Mhm.
But it can also be a shortcut that makes things worse because maybe it makes the content poorly or they're not taking
Yeah,
the
if you
time.
don't know what you're doing with it and you're not a good writer, yeah, it makes the content worse.
A lot
But
of people watching us right now they may think, oh, AI can be the cheat code for me. when they might make things worse for themselves. And they don't know
Okay. Yes. I mean, look, AI I mean, this is a greater AI conversation in general, but I mean, AI
Sure.
is only as good. The output is only as good as the input, right? So if you like, I'm a master prompter. You know, my background is in
Sure.
copywriting, and I am. And my ring light. This is like a big tech malfunction as I'm speaking. You know, maybe this is like, you know how like
I'll
podcasts
shut my
and
light
everything
off
are
so you
like
feel
kind of
better. It's okay.
boring. Like this is the
Yeah.
this is like the we're shaking it up, shaking up.
Oh, yeah, I'll join him in the little Voldemort cave.
I know. I know. Isn't it amazing how much the light does? Anywho, so if you are not a master prompter, you know, become one. And if you don't want to become one, hire someone who is. Because it's
Mhm.
like for Dustin, you're like, well, I can write a LinkedIn post in 5 minutes. Sure, I don't doubt that you can. I'm a great writer too. I can do that as well, but I don't, because why would I do it in 5 minutes when I could do it in 2 minutes? And why
Sure.
would I do
Right,
it?
exactly.
And
Yep.
why would I have, when it comes to, oh, well, what idea? Sure. Sometimes they come to you like something from the comments. You're like, oh my God, that would make a great post. You're already off and running. But other times you sit there going, oh, what am I going to write?
For an hour and a
What
half.
should I write this
Going,
week? What
oh
should my
my
post be
God, I'm a
about?
good writer. Why would it take me an hour and a half to write this? Gosh,
Right.
darn.
And that's where the AI comes in. If it knows your voice, if you've
Sure.
trained it, you say, give me,
Hmm.
20 ideas based on, XYZ. And that's,
Sure.
I think leveraging AI in this age it's foolish not to, but don't do it if
Sure.
you don't know what you're doing. Take the time to learn it if you're gonna use it as a cheat code.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Like one thing that I even personally do is I typically go on a few mile walks at night, well, evening after my kids are in bed, and I will like pop on my headphones and I'll literally just talk to ChatGPT saying, okay, this is what happened to me this week. Like, you know, my pillars, I typically,
Ooh.
yeah, and I'm like, you know, my audience,
Mm.
you know what I write. I actually recently, if you were to study my post, you'll see that I used to be a little bit inconsistent on how I talked about AI just because my audience wasn't always ready yet. And so and I do help people in non-AI too. So now my new style is I'll tell you about something in like marketing and comms, and then I'll tell you how AI can make it better. Like that is my format.
Sure.
But AI
Hmm.
helps me even do that because I'll say this. Now I want to talk about this. Is that clear? If you don't know AI that well, should I add a few steps on how to do that? Do you think the general person would know that? And then sometimes like
Super
this is written
smart.
like a really long post, or we'll get into it and I'm like, ooh, that actually sounds like two posts. And they're like, yes. And like, so I love just talking to it because I can do a whole like I can go on my walk, come back and have like a month of content created. All that I've fed it, my stories, the one I recently did about how I flew across the country for a potential position that just was horrible. But I literally was like, I'm going to tell you very explicitly
Hmm.
everything that happened. Some of this I don't need to tell everyone else, but like help me pull
Hmm.
out some of the more important parts. And like if you think this part's too personal or like people don't want to hear that, like flag that for me because I'm coming in hot with this story from my perspective. And so use it. I love using it as
Mm.
like a thought partner too, to even say, hey, are there other elements? Could this maybe make two posts? Or I always ask, where can people push back? Because I actually recently had someone push back on a comment where I made a post about how like brands are how needing to take a stand and some people aren't really showing up that right
Mm.
way. And someone was like, really? Name a few brands. And I'm like, there's literally tons. And I was like, okay, I'm not trying to be defensive. I'm just trying to educate them. And so
Right.
I was like listing them all. I'm like, this is so much for a comment. I'm like, help me pare this down. And after all that, I posted it and the guy deleted his comment too. I was like, man, I spent some time on this, but I
That's
mean, I
funny.
even used AI to help me. Here's what I want to say. This is what I would say, but I feel
Yeah.
like this is too much for a comment about this, or I might be coming in a little defensive here. I'm a very competitive person too, so I have it kind of check me sometimes because I'm like, I might be coming in too hot for the
That's
public,
funny.
and it's
Well,
great.
and
And being like,
two,
you can say this a little bit more gently, more softer. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, give it to me straight.
well, my colleague Jalissa is my LinkedIn whisperer, and well, I'll basically be talking through, hey, I'm struggling on this post, and she'll say, stop, riff on that. And as we're doing through this AI system for our client work, we're also thinking about how we can use that for LinkedIn in the future because I'm a verbal processor. And maybe you are too, Leah, is where I was talking to my colleague this morning about an op-ed. And I said, look, this is how we need to write it. Dun, 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 dun. And Robert cut me off and said, "Can you write that down?" And I was like, hit record." And so we did that again. But to your point, Anjeanette, like it may be inefficient at times because so many people are either good at writing and maybe they're not as good at speaking or vice versa. So yeah, I think you both have provided some very good examples of how to use AI when you're stuck, or in your case, Leah, you just started talking and you were able to riff and create all this content and that style more easily. Molly, anything to add?
No, these are excellent. I also like the idea of taking notes in client meetings and things like that and seeing where you have current roadblocks that a client is facing, or, well, I'm one of those people, I think this has come up several times, is that everything is content kind of person, where
Mhm.
conversations with your clients, your conversations in the DMs, in the comments section of LinkedIn posts, all of those are gold because you're actually connecting with your audience and finding out what their actual pain points are and how you can help them solve. And that's where you're going to find the value that you can add to your audience or to your LinkedIn posts, because at the end of the day, I think we've all agreed that that's where you can really make a difference, is by contributing value to a conversation. And so, yeah, I think that that's an excellent idea too, is like we were talking about, maybe this was on our prep call or something, about AI note takers and uh
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, I think Leah was saying that
Fathom.
she has one that tells her if she's talking too much. I used to
Yeah,
have an
Fathom
eye
does
for
that. I love
okay.
it. It'll be like 80% is you. And I'm like, oh God. So I just slowly
Well,
start
then,
80%? That's low.
talking.
and wait, and also to interject, I mean, my favorite thing to do is when I get off a client call is I take that Fathom transcript and I throw that into the AI to help with
Yeah.
content, for it to reference when I'm building content for them. And also sometimes they'll say something and I'm just like, I don't really understand what that meant. Or, if they're in an industry that's like not like mine at all, I work with people in various different industries. And I'll be like, can you just break down like what the heck this meeting was about? Or, or if I come back to it a week later and I'm like, oh God, what'd that person say? It's those transcripts are invaluable.
Actually had someone who does website design, who works in the same co-working space I do. And he said that he actually uses AI in every single first call with a client
Hmm.
because it allows him to get an advantage on a month from now, 2 months, 3 months from now, as they're building the website. They can actually start really learning the client right away. So yeah, that seems like a super smart approach for any kind of content for a client.
Yeah, I will also say if anyone is like a service provider who's listening in, it's great because you can feed it your any past calls, and then you can even ask like, where are themes on questions that my prospects or clients, and that might be a new offering where you're like, everyone is stuck here and asking this, and I didn't even realize that many people have this many questions. So it almost like gives you more greater insights into things that I don't think you would look at if you looked at everything individually. So AI is amazing with Fathom. Not a partner with them, but I love them. It has so many different benefits, I think, just from the AI note taking, but also, yes, to tell you if you are just talking too much too. It's like one of my favorites.
Well, speaking of talking too much, I think we've kind of hit everything really, really fast. We've hit strategy, we've hit techniques, we've hit how to engage your audience. I guess one last thing would be, how do you try to be unique on a platform with 1 billion users, right? There's 1 million people that do PR, right? If I just talk about how to write an op-ed, that's great, Dustin. Half the audience is going to say, "What's an op-ed these days?" And the other half are going to say, "I know how to do that. Go away." And so, like, how do you all try to stand out and be unique on LinkedIn? That way for yourselves. And then, maybe what are sort of one or two initial questions that you ask clients so you can guide them to standing out in the crowded marketplace of ideas? Molly? Oh, sorry.
Do you want to go first, Anjeanette?
Sure. Sure. So, I mean, I definitely don't like try to be unique. I just am. No, I'm kidding. I think that I don't think you need to try to be unique. Who cares about unique? There's plenty of room for whatever your expertise is. I think the most important thing is to add value, whatever that is, whatever your message is, whatever your niche is. if you are not, if you are adding value, you will reach the right people. It doesn't matter, like you said, if you're a PR person, sure, you want to go beyond
I'm going to push back
insight.
on that, Anjeanette.
Tell me.
I want to push back on this
Tell
because
me.
to add value, you have to find an audience that sees it as valuable. So I wrote a piece for
100%.
CEO Magazine about repurposing content. For all of us, that would be very boring.
Mm-hmm.
But to the CEO Magazine audience, they, their editor thought this was a valuable piece because their audience is the CEO who may not understand marketing and branding and communications.
Sure.
So I think uniqueness and adding value are the same. Are they synonymous here? Because if your voice, I mean, not
Sure.
literally. Okay,
I mean, sure. Like I think it's semantics, but
okay, all right,
if
understood.
I think kind of like build it and they will come. I mean, I don't think you should be that passive with just like your business strategy in general, but when it comes just to solely the content side, I don't think
Sure.
it's about you being unique. I think it's about adding value and like the right people will come. For example, like you said, there's tons of people in PR. Think about how many fitness instructors there are in the world. I mean, it's like what I don't know about fitness. Like, I don't know to eat
Right.
less and exercise more. We all know these things, but when we find someone that adds value for us that resonates, I follow like a fitness person on Instagram. I bet everyone else does too. Right here, it's like
Okay. Okay.
it's when someone speaks to you, it's like when you add value, you will find the right audience. Of course,
So resonation, not uniqueness.
right,
Because
right.
everyone's saying things about fitness, it's not unique. When you find the audience that resonates with your specific message, you zero
Correct.
in on it.
I'm
Okay.
Exactly.
gonna I'm gonna also push back a little bit, but that's because I got my start branding economist. So this is gonna be a very nerdy economics
I
take,
like it.
but we all need to know our comparative advantage, right? Like what do I do that's better or different than
Mhm.
anybody else? And so I would say the reason why you follow that fitness influencer is because the way they approach fitness is better than like the hundreds of other ones that you've scrolled past. Like there's something
I
about
agree with that completely.
yeah. And so I think, I mean, obviously value is a part of that conversation. And I think that that is like what they're offering is valuable to you and value is kind of like, within the eye of
Subjective.
the beholder. But I think they also set themselves apart from the competition in some way. And that's why we, purchase anything. It's why we purchase, the pair of running shoes that we have or whatever is that we find that there's some kind of advantage to them, comparative advantage to them in the marketplace. And so I think it's the same in the marketplace of PR folks, or for me, it's like working in the marketplace of ideas. There's a reason why that solution or that idea is more appealing than another one. And I think it also comes down to too, like the person's background. That's also often where I find a lot of that overlap is there's something in that person's story and that person's background that's intriguing and interesting, and it adds value to the larger conversation of that idea or that topic. And so for you, Dustin, I think something that's been interesting is that you're out there saying op-eds aren't dead. You need to like go push
Correct.
the op-eds. And everybody else,
Yep.
not everybody else, but a lot of the other people in the PR is saying like, let's go try something else. Let's go try Substack. Let's go try podcasts. Let's try something else completely because it's so hard to break through here. And you're keeping that, that stance. And I think that
I'm
that's
keeping the dinosaur alive. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
I think that's something though that sets you apart. Like it's
No, I
part of like, why do people hire you is because you're really good at placing op-eds. Not everybody in
sure.
PR is really good at placing like writing or placing op-eds right now. And so that's your comparative advantage. You're leaning into it and you're creating a hot take from it. And that, it's true. Like that's where he's creating value. It's kind of all wrapped up together.
Yeah, I like how you say that though, Molly, with the comparative advantage, because I definitely think, and us being in this industry, like we see a lot. I definitely see people where I'm like, I've literally seen that post like a million different times in different ways. So yes, like it was valuable. It's kind of not. You're just saying the same thing. And I know for me, when I'm like, okay, I can do marketing and comms. So sometimes that's actually a little bit too broad because not everyone likes marketing and comms, not everyone does marketing and comms, but that is just what I do. So my kind of spin on it is here's something marketing or comms based on my experience or who I work with, and I'm going to give you a bonus on how you can do it with AI. So I feel like some people just come straight with the AI. I recognize not everyone's ready for that right now or is like more AI curious, so they're like, tell me a little bit about that. But at least there's still a lot of foundation before AI that it's still important to know how to market yourself or how to tell a good story. So we can still talk about that and then go into, as a bonus, this is how you can use it with AI. But that's what I'd like to think and say is my comparative advantage.
Well, but I like your approach because you're not starting with AI, which everybody's talking
Right.
about. You're
It's
starting
really
with the fundamental strategic value, the marketing and communications. Oh, and by the way, here's how I stand out in the implementation of development of strategy, execution, and tactical success.
Yeah, and I will say too, and I'm sure a lot of people on the call do this, like the bulk of my content is on marketing, comms, and PR and AI, I do sprinkle in stuff about my life. So like if you follow me, you know I have 3 kids, like my oldest just turned 5. My life is hectic all the time. And I actually love to hear that too from other people. I know we almost like took a whole call on parenting,
We did
Dustin.
our
And
first call.
yeah, and we were like, wait, I think we're supposed to talk about something else, but like, let's talk about kids. And
Right.
I know I follow people on LinkedIn, on Instagram, but you do because you can relate to them. And I will say just a quick kind of funny thing is I used to follow on Instagram Jean Wang, who talks about being petite. I'm 5'8", like I'm not petite, like I'm tall. So after a while, I'm like, they don't sell that in like a longer inseam, so I actually can't follow a lot of your style anymore because it literally I'm not sure. So it's funny how
Sure.
like I love her
Yeah.
style, but I'm just like, okay, I just need to translate that into like a taller person audience. But you start following, connecting people that you can relate to. And so parents, I'm like, yes, I'm like, oh my God, please. I love that your house looks like a mess back there. If I see people who are just posting about their houses being perfect 24/7, I'm like, goodbye. Like we're not relatable. Or send me
Well,
your cleaning
and,
service.
frankly, I've always struggled with that because Molly will, tell you I'm very private until I'm on a call, right? My kids are not online.
Yeah.
I don't talk about our daily life online. I think that's more of an influencer, or someone who just needs more friends to talk to in person over coffee, perhaps. And so I probably shouldn't say that online. Um, so how do you balance that out when so many people they talk about such fluffy things? It's more like a lot of
Yeah.
part of LinkedIn has become more like Facebook now, more like Instagram. And I don't see that content because I'm very narrowly focused on who I'm talking to. But I see a lot of complaints about that LinkedIn is becoming like Facebook. So how do you
Yeah.
advise your clients to balance that kind of content and avoid that content if they don't find it that valuable?
I still personally, and I tell folks too, to relate it still back to like my post will still be about then a working mom or business, how to juggle certain things or how you can still even use AI. And I will tell my leaders and my clients that if you're going to talk about family and personal stuff, I'm not going to say you can if they really want to, fine, but I try to find that spin that still makes it about business. So how did you then tackle that client call later? Or how did you still deal with a huge meeting knowing that your kid was sick? Because that is a lot of us out here. Like childcare is a huge issue. Dealing with, pregnancy and working, all of that is very relatable things. So if these are your audiences, now if you only like market to men and you're talking about being pregnant, like that probably isn't the right story for them. Maybe about
Sure,
how your husband helped you during that so they can start like something like that.
sure.
But make it still relatable so your audience can consume it and they can still find value or say, hey, this is someone that I still want to connect with. Instead of just like saying, hey, here are my kids. Like that's my take on that. I'd love to hear yours.
No, I couldn't have said it better than Leah. That's exactly it. You can I think you definitely there's value in sprinkling it, but not in a way, there's been a big trend of people like trauma dumping on LinkedIn that I'm
Yeah.
Yes, you
really
posted
not a
about this,
fan
Anjeanette.
of.
That's right.
And I've
Yes.
vocally expressed not being a fan of it and gotten a lot of pushback from it. Like, we need to embrace mental health. It's like, great, do it on another platform that you're not trying to make money on. People are looking at this. There is a reality there. So I think there's definitely a line between being authentic and being self-serving. And it's like authenticity is key, but as long as it doesn't cross over into kind of a self-indulgent place that doesn't really serve you on LinkedIn as a platform. I'm sure there's plenty of other platforms that can serve you in that way, but LinkedIn's just not the one.
I'm somebody that doesn't like to talk about vanity metrics because I think that what we've said earlier, somebody described as soft indicators of success. I think that that's more of the term I use them. Except let me talk about when you say trauma dumping, that those are vanity metrics, like for people to be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or like, have those kinds of things. That's a
That's
real
true,
vanity
right? It is a
metric.
good right. That's a great point. It is definitely like a bait for people. Yeah,
Yes.
fresh bait. See, that's an excellent point.
Well, that's why, Leah, I was so when you talked about how your post promoting this conversation mentioned how you connected with people,
Yeah.
but you didn't just connect with them. You also took them down that journey, down that sales journey towards, you literally sent me a proposal. You're having other calls. You're turning that into more than just someone saying, oh, I agree, I hate LinkedIn too, or
Yep.
whatever
Oh, yeah.
other phrase that was happening in your posts. So that's a really good example of, again, if you're going to post personal, make sure it ties into some other way, because otherwise it's very easy, especially on social media, to be self-indulgent, to be oversharing. I think, Jeanette, it was part of the reason I enjoyed following your content as much as I do is you post one of the first posts I saw from you was authentic doesn't mean being vulnerable about everything.
Mhm.
That was one of the first posts, and I was seeing everyone else talking about the need to be authentic and oversharing, and you were one of the first people I saw nip that in the bud.
I try.
Yeah.
I'm not for everybody, but if I'm for you, I'm for you. It's like, I find polarizing takes on LinkedIn and on any platform really, they work for, they get attention for a reason, but it's more than just get attention. It helps filter out, who's the audience for you and who's not.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point too, you don't always have to agree, right? I mean, we had this on this call, we've had some pushback and give and take, but I shared my screen earlier. The two people responded to my comment last week. I was very hesitant to post about American Eagle. Do I even put anything up? Because we're a PR firm. We have clients across the spectrum. We have clients in and outside of politics. I have to be very careful as the face of the brand. And yet I decided to post because I thought that their silence was actually a good thing. And two crisis experts who know way more about corporate crisis comms than I do disagreed. We had a very respectful dialogue, and one of those people, Jeremy Tunis, said, I'm glad you posted. I don't know why he's glad, but he said it in a public, in a format where we would disagree. So I do think a lot of times people there's a fear of putting yourself out there, and that's reasonable. Social media posts often go viral for the wrong reasons. Kiss cam video went viral for the wrong reasons. At the same time, there is an authenticity there if you frame it in the right way with the right audience that can really create more relationship when you're being authentic, real, and intelligent about it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, it is 1 o'clock Eastern. See, Anjeanette, you probably haven't had your first cup of coffee out in California.
I don't
So
even drink coffee.
You have this much energy?
I know. I know it's hot yoga, sleep. I know, and I have kids, and I'm a mom. No, it's I just don't.
What's that sleep thing?
I'm a weirdo.
I'm gonna try to be. Not that I'm competitive like Leah, but I have 5 kids under 7.
I know you do. Oh, I know you do. I only have 2. I'm like amateur hour compared to you guys.
No, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it, and
Yeah.
I hope that everyone watching it is, again, it's not just about posting. It's also a lot about how the community you're building. The algorithm follows your lead. And so if you are engaging with people who are complaining, you're going to see a lot of complainers. If you're seeing people who are open to work, you're going to see a lot of open to work. If you're engaging with the people with whom you want to create business, you will see more people with whom you want to create business. And 20% of your success is the post. The rest of it is the strategy beyond that. So, folks, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.